Hey, Billy, you know what's awesome?
What's that?
Ghostbusters!
Oh yeah! All right, so which I'm gonna ask you a trick question because I'm sure you've seen a lot of Ghostbusters. Which version of Ghostbusters is your favorite version?
But I have to go with just the first movie. For me.
Okay, that's why I said this is a trick question.
Yeah.
There's the original movie
right.
version, then there's the edited for TV version, and then there's the version that I saw, which was I probably mentioned it in episode 1 with Karate Kid, where my friend who was the preacher's son had a trampoline and we jump off the roof on the trampoline,
right,
kick each other in the head. Well, this kid, his name's Travis. We were friends on Facebook, but he unfriended me because I think he is a minister now, and I am very much not one. So I think he got tired of my horror movie references and stuff. But anyway, back in the day, we were buds and we were watching movies, and his parents were for ministers. They had all of the stuff. They had the big speakers. They had the awesome couch. They had all of the movies. But what his dad would do is he would take the movies and he would dub the movies onto a VCR onto a tape, and he would hit pause, or like he would mute the bad words. Yep. So you'd be watching Ghostbusters, and they'd be saying words, and then all of a sudden, then they'd come back in the middle of a phrase, and you'd be like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but let's keep going because like whatever. And I mentioned in our episode talking about Jaws 2 how Dad fell asleep on the couch. Like he started taking out the commercials, and then in the second half of the movie, the commercials just like came back in.
Right.
This kid's version of Ghostbusters is like every bad word, and I'm talking like even so far down as crap. It was like and of course we're talking about Aykroyd. We're talking about
Bill Murray. I mean,
it's like this movie is full of nice and bad words, but they were all muted out, and they were all muted out among like the whole conversation was pretty much just like censored.
Right.
And then apparently Pastor Travis fell asleep because right on top of the building, turns around and is like, let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown. And like 10-year-old us were like, yeah.
The breakthrough.
They said a bad word on Pastor Travis's tape. We've hit the promised land. We've broken through. Awesome.
I'm just thinking about so many of the big lines in the movies, like, yes, it's true. This man has no.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly how
it's like,
it works.
What does he not have?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Man.
So
that's still a thing, man. I mean, people still heavily edit the movies for their kids. I mean, it's still a practice. I prefer when they just change the words to something else for regular TV, because Smokey and the Bandit has a whole different life on TV. Because there's words that, I'm going to get you, you scumbum. I mean, it's like, what? Scumbum? Where did that come from?
The best part was Big Lebowski. Big Lebowski has so many F-bombs in it. So many F-bombs. Like, that should never have been edited for TV. But they did it. And he's like, this is what happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps. Like when he's smashing the car. This is what happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps, Larry.
Hey, Die Hard 3, man. When Samuel L. Jackson says you're a racist melon farmer. I know know your problem. You're a racist melon farmer. Like, really?
And the thing is, in our modern society, and you look at places like New York who have cleaned up Central Park. It's no longer full of porn stores and criminals and all that stuff. It's just full of criminals and Applebee's.
What's the fun in that?
Dude. Every now and then they're like, "Oh, if you had the the DeLorean, where would you go?" I'd be like, "I'd like to go to like pre-Giuliani New York and just take a look."
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's pretty rough.
It is pretty rough, but you know, that's the world in which our Ghostbusters live.
Right? Yeah.
So, Ghostbusters is so awesome. I mean,
Yeah, man, such a phenomenon. I mean, you had... It's kind of a confusing name, and I think it's why you threw me at the beginning, because there was a kid's show before this called The Ghostbusters. There was a cartoon that was called The Ghostbusters. Then this movie came out, was Ghostbusters. Then you had another cartoon that came out called The Real Ghostbusters. It's kind of hard to keep it all straight, right?
Oh yeah, and Pastor Travis's Ghostbusters, because
Yeah.
pretty much the original Ghostbusters minus the bad words, and then plus some. But dude, the whole thing about the Ghostbusters, again, it was that 94, 84, 84, 85, something
Yeah.
like that. Every single person in the movie was huge. Like,
Yeah.
it was an all-star cast.
Yeah.
Like, everybody in the movie. Bill Murray, top of his game. Dan Aykroyd, top of his game.
Harold
I
Ramis.
remember in the
Yeah.
no, I remember in the 90s when Wayne's World came out, and I remember my dad. He was a pop culture guy, you know. He's kind of cynical because he'd seen a lot of stuff. He's like, Wayne's World came out, and he's like, those guys don't hold a candle to like Aykroyd and
Yeah.
you know, they're like, there was Gen 1 and then Gen 2, and Gen 2 was just much, and I still kind of agree, because if you watch those old original Saturday Night Lives, but to be fair, they were unshackled.
Yes.
They were allowed to do whatever they wanted to do. By the time,
Yep.
I mean, by the time the second gen came along, they had standards and practices and all kinds of stuff that they couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas
You're getting in trouble for it the very first time with the original group, whereas here, those rules have already been set. So you already knew where the line was. Belushi didn't know where the line was. If he did, he would have snorted it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, you got... And I'm sure you've seen the movie that made us, where Dan Aykroyd pretty much promised Bill Murray, but they didn't know if they had him.
Yeah.
But of course, then it's Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray, so they were friends. So I don't know that it was that was necessarily true, because Ivan Reitman made Bill Murray and vice versa. So I'm pretty sure Bill Murray was in that from the beginning.
Well, imagine the story of John Belushi in this movie. What a different turn it would have taken, right? So this is, and you said it a while ago, this is Bill Murray at the top of his game, man. He took what he did in Meatballs and was just rolling with it, man. That's pretty funny. He's rolling with meatballs. But really, did he ever really change character from Meatballs all the way through these? It's the same character.
Did he change character in anything? He's the same character in chat. Like,
he's just Bill Murray.
The thing about Bill Murray is, it's weird because, like, a criticism of Tom Cruise can be applied to Bill Murray.
Absolutely.
This is that Tom Cruise is just Tom Cruise. He's jet fighter pilot Tom Cruise, or he's, alien fighter Tom Cruise, or whatever he is. He's just Tom Cruise with crooked teeth. He's just Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And then you take that same criticism and you're like, well, it's just Bill Murray. He's the same guy in Zombieland as he is in Ghostbusters. And
Absolutely.
you're like, yeah, and that's awesome.
Yep.
Because somehow it just works. And it's weird because I've read stuff about Bill Murray, about him being just this... His own brother, Joel Murray, was like, yeah, I showed up to New York for my 16th or 18th birthday, and Bill wouldn't tell me where I'm going, and we had, like, reservations to this awesome thing, and he's like, nah. And he just wandered around Central Park and wouldn't tell me what was going on, and he just took us down to this blues bar and met all these awesome people, and he's like, is this good enough for you? Like, Bill is just a weird guy.
Yep.
And I didn't mean to say Murphy because I was thinking Eddie Murphy because of Saturday Night Live, but that's...
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, doing the Tom Cruise thing, because the difference is, well, besides the popularity, who would you rather hang out with? Tom Cruise from all these movies? Or go hang out a weekend with Bill Murray being the character that he is in Stripes and Meatballs? I mean, obviously, this is who you want to hang out with, so... I think it just gave a bit more credibility of it's the cool uncle or the cool cousin, right?
Mm-hmm.
That really is a nobody, but he just tries to pass off that air of, yeah, this is...
He's going to fake it till he makes it.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. And that's what makes this movie work. You got a couple of guys that have some ideas of how to make this business work, and then you got Bill Murray who's just selling it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, you had at the beginning, like the original 3 Ghostbusters, they're scientists, but like at the beginning, Bill Murray's cheating.
Yeah,
because they're like, they know paranormal stuff exists. They've got the equipment. They've got all of the data they need, and Bill Murray's cheating because he was trying to get laid. Because in that little card test, the one guy's obviously he's like he's naming, he's like shocking the guy for not naming the shapes right, and the girl is not saying anything right, and he's like, oh, you're just a natural at this. So but the thing is, he's not impressed by the fact that this dude knows the cards, because he knows how this works. He like the thing about the paranormal, as the paranormal starts to unfold, none of them are actually surprised that there are ghosts. Not really. Yeah. They're just kind of like, oh, the thing that gets them is the fact that they're able to catch them and like do something with them. Like the fact that they exist, not so much. They're like, they've got all the data. They're scientists. They're like, this is a thing. Mm-hmm. The shocker is that the box works. And they're like, and then he steals the reactor, the reactor packs. But that's what's so great about it, is it's the subtext of like, no, these guys are really, really smart. Yeah. But they're just using their smarts to get laid and not have to work real jobs. Yeah.
and you have to say it too, man. It's you're always going to talk about these things, but man, these effects still look great. They still really hold up.
They do. And well, getting Bernie Wrightson in for the librarian, and for a couple of the other monsters,
it still looks fantastic.
The thing, and you guys have mentioned it on Short Bus and Hell Ming and everything else, and we mentioned it on Scary Dad, is the 80s were kind of relentless, because even last week we talked about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like, man, that turned into a childhood fantasy to a childhood nightmare like that. Yep. Didn't take much to turn it into that. Just kind of changed the light a little bit and a little bit of makeup, and then boom, suddenly it's scary. The 80s did not pull punches with whether or not you were in a comedy Like 3 Men and a Baby.
Right.
My wife put that on the other day.
Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby. It is the cutest movie ever. Then just insert a bunch of Russian drug dealers, and all of a sudden you got a kidnapping, drug dealing Miami Vice heist movie. Like, what happened to not being able to figure out diapers? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But that's the way the 80s worked.
Yeah. Well, they discovered how to really fine tune the blockbuster, right?
Oh yeah.
So the same thing that makes Ghostbusters work is the same thing that made Pee-wee's Big Adventure work, right? It's appealing to kids. You got some cool effects, but then you also got a little scare factor that's just scary enough, but not too scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's a kid mentality right there. All right, scare me, but don't scare me too much, right? That's really what these movies kind of played to, and then you make a comedy with, adult humor laced into it, and you've got a blockbuster that people can take their kids and go see and cover their ears from time to time, but for the most part, kids are enjoying the movie too.
Yeah. We're having a little bit of a discussion here because I don't remember what movie it was, but my wife's like, I don't remember that movie having that many curse words in it. And I'm like, well, this is the 80s. Pretty much if they were allowed to have one, they got it. They just took it and ran with it. And also they were allowed a scary scene, a dead body, some boobs.
Yep.
Like
standards. Those are just staples.
And so, like, then as a producer, you're sitting there being like, you have to, like, at the poll, you're like, I don't know which one I'm going to check. It's like, I got boobs, I got F word, or I got, like, and sometimes you checked all three and you got a rated R, and then the kids wanted to see it even more.
Sure.
But Ghostbusters didn't really have any of those. They had scares, and it's fair.
You had Sigourney Weaver, looking pretty saucy here.
And she was really she was really good at that.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I'm a fan. But then of course you have Bill, who's the dick.
Yeah.
Of like that's what the.
Yeah.
If Bill Murray, and I love Bill Murray. If you're listening to the podcast right now, Bill Murray, I love you so much. And I follow the chive, and I've got your face on a t-shirt, and all of that stuff. Except for your resume. If you have to write a resume, Bill Murray, say, what has been your career experience? You say, playing a dick on TV. Or movies.
There you go.
There you go.
It. Yeah.
Because Sigourney Weaver, she's like, hey, I need help. He's like, I'm here to help you. And then he's sitting there like messing around with her piano and like making fun of her laundry, like making fun of her groceries. And she's just like, I invited you over here for a reason. He's like, I just came here to get laid. I don't know. Right. I really don't know what you're talking about.
I know what the reason is, and we haven't got there yet.
Until later, whenever he starts piecing together, like, these are actually problems. It's, like, was it her refrigerator? What did he look into that he opens it up and it's like, rah!
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah, it's such a well put together movie, and again, being that it was that group working together, it's almost like you're getting to that point to where this is as good as it's going to get with this group, and then it's going to start falling off from there, right? And that's really what this movie is the pinnacle of all that. And look at us. I mean, we're talking about it here. We've had a recent remake. We've got We've got a continuation movie supposedly coming out. So
from the trailer, We're not quite in the commercial territory yet, but I'll go ahead and play that trailer if you just want to take a pause. What did you think of that trailer?
Well, I mean, it's at first I thought, okay, it's kind of like what you're hearing George Lucas say now with what happened with the last trilogy with Star Wars. It's kind of like, hey, let's try to set things back to right. That's really what I got out of it. It's exciting, but it's also a thing of, you're probably just doing this out of necessity because somebody peed in your Wheaties,
That's true. I didn't see the remake. I've heard differing opinions. I can't have opinions on a movie I didn't see.
Yeah. Well, it's just that thing. Our problem is always going to be, they're going to remake everything. Lord help us, there's rumors of a Princess Bride remake out there right now.
I don't think that's possible.
And that's exactly what I mean. People love the movie. It's popular. So this is the way the movie companies think. Hey, this was really popular back in the day. People are still talking about it now. If we make a new version, we'll introduce it to a whole new generation. The old group will come see it and get pissed off, and the new generation will love it and think it's the best thing ever. That's the play.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. But whatever version you see first is the one you're always going to be in love with. That's going to be the one you think that. 76 King Kong is my favorite King Kong movie.
Yep.
That's right, folks. I said it.
Hey, dude, 33 King Kong, dude, that was like 70 years before I was born.
Right,
it was,
right. Yeah.
40 years before I was born.
And if they even when they make this newest version of King Kong, I'm going to go, yeah, that looks really great, and it's great, but I still love the 76 King Kong. Because it's the one that made the impact.
You're also, you're not ever going to beat Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is king. He's a Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
He's King Kong. Like, dude.
But it's the same thing with this movie too, though. I mean, regardless of what version they come out with, even with bringing everybody back for another version, it's still not going to have what this one's got. Heck, even part 2 didn't have what this one had.
I'm always big into sequels as opposed to prequels or reimaginings or any of that. If you're like, okay, here's a sequel, it's like things like Mandalorian, where it's like, okay, there's all this Star Wars crap that people can argue about, but then you have a capable writer come in and say, you know what, I don't care about all this other crap. This happened over here, and we've got a good story, capable characters, and we can just run with it.
I've got something to tell you when we get off of here about the Star Wars galaxy in a little bit. I don't want to share it on this show just yet. So
I'm all for it. But I want to get back to Ghostbusters because of that trailer. Because that trailer looks like, to me, that trailer was awesome. I got chills from it.
Yeah.
Because it's got Egon's progeny. Obviously, it's not his kids, it's his grandkids or somebody else's grandkids telling his kids that they need to wake up and be part of things. But going back to the original Ghostbusters, the like you said, the fear factor, the scares, I mean, it's a perfect scary movie. It's a perfect comedy.
Yeah.
It's a perfect, like I said earlier in the episode, the pre-Giuliani New York, where it was dangerous as hell. Like, just walking around, like it's all dirty.
Yeah.
It's all street.
Demolition sites everywhere. Everything was torn down. It's rough.
It's pre-hip hop. Like, there's no pop culture celebrating all this stuff. It's just not a good place to be. And yet, it is the greatest. It is the shining beacon of the world. This is the biggest city in America, and New York is a strange thing. Like, for you guys who are listening, who are not from Texas or not from Tennessee, New York is a strange entity for the rest of us, because, like, as you grow up, all of the things happen in either New York or LA. And if you live in America and you know how things are in New York or LA, you kind of don't want to be in New York or LA.
Last place you want to be, you know.
you just kind of really don't, because it's weird and it's strange, and you're not going to get too deep into it. But 1984 New York with the Ghostbusters is a place you really want to be, because you can rent an abandoned firehouse. You can buy a 50s ambulance,
right,
and outfit it. And you can start a business without the government completely shutting you down. Well, actually, they tried real hard, but they had too many things in the trap. But yeah, that freaking government just shows up and is like, "Hey, you're
right.
operating an illegal reactor," and they're like,
Yep.
"Yeah, you want me to pull this lever and just
turn them
blow up the
loose."
city?"
Yep. And then you can also in New York, you can get Ray Parker Jr. to do your theme song and get sued over it.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Because it sounded too much like "I Want a New Drug."
Yeah. You want to take a break real quick, and we'll come back, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Ghosts.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
They're real.
You do? You have?
They're here. They're armed. They're dangerous.
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
All right, that's bad. Okay. All right, important safety tip. Thanks, Egon.
They're professionals.
Oh, I'm the chairman of the largest paranormal removal company in America. You see it?
They're all that stands between you and the end of the world.
The city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Real wrath of God type stuff. Exactly. Fire and brimstone coming down from the sky. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Your girlfriend lives in the corner penthouse of Spook Central.
You want this body?
Is this a trick question? Got your stick? Hold! Hit him up! Smoke it! Make him hard! Ready!
Ghostbusters.
Ray Parker Jr. was just trying to be Huey Lewis. They hired him because Huey Lewis turned him down.
Right.
Which Huey Lewis was so big in Back to the Future, you would have thought, like, could you imagine being Huey Lewis and being like, not only was I Huey Lewis, I was also Huey Lewis from Back to the Future. Right. And the Ghostbusters.
Right.
But he turned down Ghostbusters, so Ghostbusters went and found Ray Parker Jr.
I mean, if Huey would have done that, he'd only have one more person standing in his way, and that's Kenny Loggins.
Mm-hmm. Poor Huey.
Yeah.
And then he got Sam Kinison to just, like, dog on him and just completely ruin him.
Well, Sam kind of does that anyways, regardless of who you are.
The reality is, I know a lot of... I've listened to a lot of Sam Kinison stand-up.
Me too.
I've never heard anyone be so brutal as Sam Kinison was to Huey Lewis. And just, like, honestly, like, as soon as Kinnison's star was rising, he just hit Huey in the face, and Huey fell down and never really quite got back up.
It's true.
And Sam's been dead for, like, 45 years. So, like... poor Huey.
We'll have to try to do a Sam Kinison show somehow. Don't know how we could pull that off, but I'm sure we can talk about it.
Remember when we first started this episode, this podcast? I was like, dude, I blew out my voice back in the day.
Yeah.
I can't even pretend to do a Sam Kinison impression. Well, like, not gonna work.
And I remember I wasn't really into him that much back in the day because I came from Carlin, George Carlin and these guys. I was really into a lot of stand-up. I liked Sam because I just thought of him as the guy that yelled. But in hindsight, and going back and rediscovering everything, which I did about 15 years ago, extremely funny.
Mm-hmm.
He loved to push the boundaries. There's no doubt about it. But he was extremely funny, and I think people kind of missed that. Anyways, that's a different show. But
I think we just we got to work back to Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
Because Ghostbusters was just full of too many comedians. There's too many moving parts inside of Ghostbusters that you can't. It's hard to talk about the movie itself without going Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, Dan Aykroyd,
Rick Moranis, man. We keep dancing around Rick.
I didn't want to say it because you're going to send me into my happy place. Rick Moranis. When I sent you the text earlier, I was like, "Do you want to talk about Ghostbusters or Spaceballs?"
Yeah. And I said Strange Brew.
Dude, nah. The last 2 days ago, not yesterday, the day before, 2 days ago, wife sitting there playing around with the remote control, the kids. We're still on quarantine, right? Kids are, I don't want to watch that. I don't watch that. I want to fight about this one. Wife's like, Little Shop of Horrors. I was like, Little Shop of Horrors. Cue the music. Done. Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis doesn't sing he sings the Audrey song, but he doesn't dance. Rick Moranis is perfect.
Yep.
And just about if you have a bad movie and you want to make it good, hire Rick Moranis to just be on set for a while.
I think that's a great way to put it. I think he was that kind of person. He could really pull something out of the ditch for you.
Ghostbusters, we watched it not too long ago, and it really did for me. It was like, okay, all these other guys are funny. The situations, everything's hilarious. Rick Moranis is the movie.
Yeah.
He saves the whole movie.
Right.
Like, every scene that he's in is perfect, and everything he says or does is hilarious. I really think the only other person that could have been in that role is maybe John Candy.
How weird, because I was thinking the exact same thing. If you had a bad movie and you need somebody to pull it out of the gutter, John Candy. They are so much alike as far as just that natural ability, which they both came from the same, SCTV, group. So, yeah.
You just imagine them in a backlot room, like in a plywood room, sitting there reading lines off each other and just being like, okay, how to make this funny? How about if I stand up and turn my head sideways? Or how about if I just yell? How about if I cry? Just like. But Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters, it's. I mean, how good do you have to be to upstage Murray?
Yeah.
How good do you have to be to upstage any of them?
Right.
And Bill Murray is the romantic to Sigourney Weaver, except for
it's hard to even say that, right? I mean,
but he's the romantic straight. But then you have poor Louis Tully, who's got a crush. She lives across the hall. Like, hey, you want to come to my party? And he's so nerdy but so sweet. And he's the accountant. And dude, Rick Moranis just steals so many scenes just by being in them. that he actually, in my opinion, after watching, it is a Rick Moranis movie.
Yeah.
Big, like, it is him.
Well,
Poor
the movie is star power, man. I mean, it's got so much of everything in it, and I think it's another reason why the movie works so well is it's kind of like being a Beatles fan or a Spice Girl fan, like we talked about, a Kiss fan, because there's somebody for everybody. You're going to identify with all these different characters. And Rick Moranis, for the most part, is who most people identify with. You didn't ask to be put in this situation. It just happened. It happened to a nice guy, and it shouldn't have. But it all turns out like it should, right? I mean, that's the ride.
The great part is because Lewis is such a likable guy, but then also the demon dog that possesses him is also a likable guy.
Yeah.
Because when he's got the helmet on, and he's just talking about like how the end of the world's gonna come, and he's just so smiley. He's just he completely impersonates a dog, and he's just like, oh yeah. You know, the wrath is coming down, and this is just gonna happen, and it's just like he's just so happy as it's happening. He's just like,
all right, time for the real question.
Sorry, man. I'm just like I'm just gushing over the awesomeness that is Rick Moranis.
Yes,
you're gonna have to do a whole movie on him.
I totally agree, man. I'm a big fan too. So let's talk about this, because this could be a mixed bag, especially being the age. I was 14, 15 this movie came out. So how attractive was David Bowie looking Zool?
She was scary.
She was scary, but with the see-through clothing and the spiked up hair. I don't know, man.
Voice.
Yeah.
She reminded me of like skinny old grandmas with that like little. Remember the cigarette case thing that was like.
Yeah.
Like it was like a little leather case, and it'll hold your pack of cigarettes and a lighter.
Little twisty thing at the top that popped it
Just
open.
like everything. I am so. You're like, oh, that's not good. You need to zap that, or go up the hill and buy her some Schaefer. No, I was not. I was like, dude, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Do you remember this? It's. We are a clean show. Do you remember this? Somewhere in the late 80s, 80s-ish, maybe early 90s, the headlines on like Playboy, you'd go to the convenience store and but this is before they wrapped them in black plastic, guys. So
yeah,
it was like, and whenever these magazines still existed. So anyway, you'd go sit there and see like Playboy and Penthouse and Hustler sitting on the rack, and you'd see a headline say something about like Sigourney Weaver, and then you'd see like a little micro headline be like, says she enjoyed being in Ghostbusters. But you had that hope that maybe and like that's one of those things is just always in my mind, like, oh, one of these days.
That's hilarious.
I know. I mean, I'm a hornball, bro. What you gonna do?
Hey, well, I've got. It's weird. I've got something that's kind of like that story, but kind of the other end of the spectrum. Linda Carter had a TV special.
Oh,
I may have told you
say
this.
no more. I would be right there. I would be like, I'm buying it, and then like later on, be like, mentioned her in an article. I'd be like, oh.
But she had a TV special that came on where she's going to do a tribute to Kiss. Well, as a kid, I heard Kiss was going to be on the show. It was not Kiss by any means. It was these guys that were dancers that looked like, you know, I don't even know how to say this nicely. They were Kiss. And I remember being
solid gold dancers.
Yeah, exactly. I remember being devastated because it wasn't Kiss. But the good side of it was this outfit that Linda Carter was wearing. I didn't pay attention to really anything else after that.
Yeah, she saved it. It was her show.
That's right.
and
she was showing.
She was in...
Oh. Yeah. Ghostbusters.
Oh.
I mean, it's hard to really say a whole lot about it. The movie is iconic. It's like I said, it spawned, sequels, cartoons, games, toys. I mean, it's just one of those 80s phenomenons.
It's still there. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a huge fan of Dan Aykroyd.
Sure.
And he's done a lot of comedy. He's also done a lot of serious stuff. He's done writing, acting, producing. Like that's fine. Bill Murray, I love Bill Murray. I love everything Bill Murray does.
Yep.
It's very rare that I've seen anything that Bill Murray was in that I was like, eh.
Right.
Rick Moranis. He was mostly partnered up with Ivan Reitman and Bill Murray, and unfortunately, he just recently passed away.
Yep.
But even that whole I'm too frightened. I'm so frightened. I'm beyond the capable of rational thought. Like the comedy that comes out of just being able to write that line, that is a very hard thing to say. He's like, I'm so scared that I can't even say the words that are coming out of my mouth right now.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Ernie Hudson. Ernie Hudson. He's the fourth Ghostbuster. He shows up. He's like, hey, and poor dude, man. Like he was hired on for a much bigger role, and then as his role got chopped out, he's like, what am I even doing here? They're like, you're in a movie with Bill Murray, directed by Ivan Reitman. This is your legacy.
Right.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap. Well, I guess here we are.
Enjoy the ride.
And I'm sure that between Ghostbusters and The Crow, it's probably keeping him pretty happy.
Sure.
Ernie Hudson's awesome. I've met him a couple of times. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might go home and kick his dog or something, but he's been nice when I met him. Dude, I remember being 10 years old, watching that. There was Karate Kid, there was Ghostbusters, there was Missing in Action, Rambo. All of these movies with the bad words cut out. All of us church kids going over to the pastor's house, the preacher's house.
Sure.
And would you rather be Storm Shadow or Snake Eyes? I don't know. I'll just hit you with a broomstick and see what you think about later. But watching Ghostbusters with the bad words taken out is one of the best memories of my life.
That's
it was
awesome.
So good. Yeah. And then watching it later. I mean, again, we're talking about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's watching it later and being like, oh my God, Rick Moranis is the heart of this movie. He didn't mean to be. I don't think they meant for that to be, but it really is.
Yep.
That's what this movie means to me, is childhood summer times, bouncing around on trampolines, kicking each other in the face.
Yep.
Do you really believe in ghosts? Well, they wouldn't have said it if it wasn't true.
Yeah, it's
How
just
about you?
Just classic stuff, man. I mean, it's right there in my preteens, and just you were just consumed with it. I went to the theater and seen it. Saw it on HBO 20 plus times. every time it comes out with some new format, I'm having to buy it. It's just one of those. You grew up with it. It's a part of your family, and it's hard to even imagine people that haven't seen it. It just seems like it should almost be like they should hand you a copy of it when you come into this country. It's just that part of Americana that I don't know. It's just a staple.
Dude, it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is. It's there's so many different random scenes. There's so many little quotes where it's just like
I mean,
I can't go back to the. I can't go back. They expect results. I can't go back to the.
I never was a big fan of part 2, but it's just one of those things where, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
I've never been a fan of part 2 either. Like, I've seen the first one probably at least a dozen times, maybe 15, 20 times. The first one is so classic.
Yeah.
Those guys crawling out under the sidewalk, like, after they're dead.
Yeah.
After they crawl out from under the sidewalk, it's like, okay, we've won. And then you start off part 2 with, like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, you're not very good writers.
Right.
I just can't dig it. Like,
Yeah.
freaking Home Alone 3 was better than that. So,
Oh. Wow.
at least Home Alone 2 acknowledged the fact that Home Alone 1 happened. In Home Alone, in Ghostbusters 2, they're like, oh, that didn't happen. That was a hallucination by the Ghostbusters. That was just a money-making scheme. You're like, wait, what?
Hey, Home Alone 2 is the shiz, man. I love the second one.
Oh, no. I didn't say.
You talking about 3.
I said that is like Home Alone 3, saying
Right.
that Home Alone 2 didn't happen.
Didn't happen,
Like, no.
right. And again, it's one of those things where you're making a movie and wow, it's a hit. So somehow we got to follow up. It's no different than doing Jaws, and then you're like, okay, now we got to have a sequel. What? We just killed the shark.
And the thing is, man, and I don't think this has been recorded. I mean, we mentioned it on Facebook, but I was inspired by our own episode to go back and watch Jaws 2, and you know what? It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's the whole thing about the show is it's awesome. Like, I watched the show that we talked about and it sucked. I'll do that too. Like, it was totally not awesome. But dude, Jaws 2 holds up.
It does. Yeah.
And I'm still waiting, not waiting for a copy, but waiting for a chance to watch Orca. We're kind of hitting the end of our time. We've kind of danced around Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is awesome.
With that being said, maybe, and people can let us know out there, maybe we should check out Ghostbusters Part 2 again and give it a fair shake again and see if our minds have changed.
Maybe so. Angie wanted us to talk about comedies.
Yep.
I said, hey, you know what? I want to talk about summer slashers because not because like, dude, I'm big into the horror stuff.
You don't say.
But hey, but I just thought for whatever reason, if you're going into summer, I mean, we're at the end of June.
Yeah.
We might as well just be like, hey, I like Jason. I like summer camp and whatever. And then I thought, you know what? Let's talk about some comedies.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is also a horror comedy, so it's fun. But guys, what do you want us to talk about?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it, or we'll say, we'll talk about what we want to talk about. We're halfway through the summer. It's hot. This whole COVID thing. Oh my God, man! We didn't have a chance to talk off air before we started, but so at this point, Houston's like an epicenter.
Yeah.
And so I went to the store earlier so I could pick up some toilet paper and paper towels because I'm
Supplies!
just terrified. I guess what's not available? Toilet paper and paper towels.
Yeah.
So instead, I bought beer and cheese because,
Which keeps you from needing the other stuff, I guess. I don't know.
That's because it's freaking hilarious. Because I don't know, man.
Crazy times we're in, man.
It's insanity. What I was gonna say before you made me laugh too hard is toilet paper and paper towel supply was just fine like 4 days ago. I ran up to the store to buy some like chicken seasoning and some vinegar for all of your nasty thoughts, you people. But that's what I needed, and I happened to look over my shoulder and be like, damn, there ain't no toilet paper. And there's also no toilet or paper towels. Like, this is a weird situation when I'm holding a jar of vinegar. I got home, and like the next couple of days happened. My wife's like, "Hey, go to the store, pick up paper towels and pickles, and more vinegar and some carrots and like all this stuff." Hey, guess what? There's no vinegar.
Yep. Your
there's
basics,
no carrots.
Man. Yep.
There's no carrots.
Yep.
I'm not. I was honestly, I was trying to go into a joke, and then I realized, dude.
Yeah.
There's no paper towels. There's no toilet paper. There's no carrots.
Yeah.
And there's no vinegar.
Sure enough.
This is a weird situation.
We've already kind of gone through that here, where those supplies are running out, and now it's not a big deal. But if we end up having round 2, guess what? And what's amazing is people are buying toilet paper. Like, I mean, I understand you need toilet paper to, if you're gonna be quarantined for a month or so, but they're buying it like for a year. I mean, my wife's got enough toilet paper that we don't need any till I don't know, way past Christmas.
That's the thing, is everything was just fine, and then they announced like, "Uh-oh, we're into some crap," and they're like, all the toilet paper's gone.
Well, your delivery system starts shutting down, and people are not bringing the stuff in like they should. It affects everything, and yeah, this will be definitely something that we can go back and tell our grandkids and stuff about. There was a time when you couldn't get toilet paper. They'll be like, yeah. Sit down before you fall down,
kids are
Grandpa.
Gonna be like, why is the grocery store built out? The grocery store is built out in like eighths, and then like quarters, thirds. It's like, why is there that much toilet paper? You're gonna be like, well, there was a time. Hey, man. I think we've hit the end of our rope.
Ghostbusters!
What's your favorite thing about Ghostbusters?
Oh, it's Bill Murray.
End.
It's Bill Murray, and it's, again, the effects. I'm still amazed when I see these effects because I love this time period because this is when we were really getting blown away by some top-notch special effects. Right before the introduction of the CGI stuff. Man, ILM was just killing it at this point.
Totally agree. Like you said, like for me with horror or comedy or anything, like anything that just like keeps you in and you watch special effects, and especially with the Ghostbusters, it's like boom, here's lightning all over a building, and your brain realizes that it's drawn,
right.
it's fake. at the same time, it's so well done that your brain only recognizes that for a second before you just...
Yeah.
It's like reading a comic book. Where, like, reading a comic book and being like, okay, well, things are slightly sideways, but not really. So I'm just into it.
Right.
Man, I love Ghostbusters. Bill Murray. We've got to go through a whole Rick Moranis filmology because that's one of my favorite people.
You could almost take Rick Moranis, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and just go through all their stuff. I mean, I could talk about Spies Like Us for days.
Yep. Like I said, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the thing about Rick Moranis is he's a little guy with big glasses. He's a nerd.
Yep.
And he's a nerd in the 80s. He's not a nerd. He's not a current nerd where
Right.
nerds are kind of popular, like the size of your glasses kind of trendy. Rick Moranis he's the definition of nerd, and yet
He could have been a tri-lamb.
But at the same time, he's also a massively talented actor making millions of dollars being a nerd.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it. It's like watching anybody, like watching a guitar player, watching a guitar player playing classical music. And you watch his hands barely move. And you're like, "Oh my God, he's playing so many notes out of so little movement. He's a master at his craft." That's Rick Moranis to me. He's just so good at what he does that he kind of sneaks around behind the curtain, and he's a ninja, really. He's a ninja, like we were talking about. He's like so freaking good that you don't even realize he's there until he leaves, and then you're like, what happened to Moranis?
Yeah.
So
He just hung it up, man. And it's an incredible story when you dig into it, but he left it all behind for family, and you couldn't do a more noble thing. It's kind of like, it's why you got into it in the first place, because you had a talent, and then you want to support your family, and then you find out that it's keeping you from being there and being supportive of your family. What can you say? He's a mighty big man.
Yep. He's awesome.
Yep, I agree.
Let's close this down. Let's get together next week.
All right,
Don't know if
gatekeeper.
we're going to talk about... I don't know if we're going to talk about Rick, but we might. But, hey, we'll see you next time. We love you. Keep it awesome.